Okay, everyone. I think I've given a few minutes. I think it's hopefully people will be able to join if they join us a little late. But I'm conscious that we want to get started. So first of all, welcome everyone from Digital Workforce. My name is Richard Hilditch. I'm one of the senior advisors at Digital Workforce, and I'm here I'm joined by a panel of experts from some of our customers to talk about how their implementations and how to scale a successful digital workforce. For myself, I was actually worked for Blue Prism for over eight and a half years. So I've seen many of the journeys that you guys have either are already on, have been on, or looking to set the next steps. But before we get started, just a few little housekeepings. We're actually recording this session just to make you aware. But you can see down in the chat discussions, if you have any questions you want to post to the panel, we will do our best to answer the questions at the end of the session. But also in terms of from digital workforce perspective, please, if you haven't already done so, visit the digital workforce room, and you can have a sort of a more one-to-one conversation with our automation experts. The link there is in the chat. And obviously, once you visit the room, you do have an opportunity to, as well as speaking to the experts, but you have an opportunity to win a capability scan of your own RPA implementation. And what the capability scan will give you is more of a review of your implementation and some recommendations as to where you can make improvements and build stronger foundations for the future. So in terms of digital workforce, I've actually known these guys for over 5 years. They're recent winners of the BP Innovation Part of the Year award for EMEA. So on the back of that, obviously their innovation's been quite prevalent to the customers they've got. So what I want to do is introduce you to some of our three sort of renowned customers, and then we're going to talk about their journey so far. So in no particular order, I'll use alphabetical for the easy part of it. Alexander, do you want to sort of introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, thank you, Richard. Alexander Wahlberg, RPA manager at Coop Sweden. Coop is one of the largest food retailers in Sweden. It is a big cooperative owned by around 4 million members. We have started our RPA journey back in 2018. We now have around 35 processes in automation, and mainly business areas for us is logistics and purchase and assortment.
Thank you, Alexander. Antero?
Yeah, hi, thanks, Richard. So my name is Antero Immonen, and I'm working as the head of automation, process automation here in OP Financial Group. Two words about OP. So we are working in three main business areas: banking, wealth management, and insurance. We are quite heavily local Finnish company. And when we talk about, for example, banking, we are the largest bank in Finland with 4 million customers and 12,000 employees. We started our RPA journey in 2016 when we launched our Blue Prism environment, and perhaps after two years robotizing different business processes, we decided to a little bit expand our automation toolkit, and at the moment we have robotic process automation, desktop automation, and some business process management tools as well. We are using to automate our business processes, and at the moment we have around 300 different kind of implementations in place.
Thanks, Antero. Dan?
Sure, thanks for sure. Dan Reynolds, I'm an associate vice president at Nasdaq in our finance advisory office. My team is responsible for managing a number of our strategic initiatives within finance, which include not only our corporate data analytics program, but our automation initiative as well. We began our automation journey back in 2018, at least within finance. And then the first part of 2019 was focused on our pilot and proof of concept, which quickly expanded to beyond the pilot. We were very happy with the pilot results, and so we conducted a roadshow across finance to demonstrate the capabilities and educate the business on RPA. And we focused on, of course, pipeline development and automated approximately 10 processes in the first year. So since that point, we've been full steam ahead.
Okay, thanks for that, Dan. Thanks, guys. So again, everyone, if you have any questions, then please feel free to put them in the chat, and we will look to get to them at the end of the session. So as I mentioned, in this panel discussion, we want to look at and focus on solving challenges that these guys have faced and tapping into the full value and potential of RPA. So my first question is to yourself, Antero. So all you guys as customers have chosen sort of a cloud consumption sort of based model in one shape or another. When at the time there was very few people had that sort of offering, but what was your initial driver behind that approach, and how has your journey on the cloud been? Antero?
Yeah, thanks, Richard. Good question, I have to say. Well, when we started our automation journey in 2016, the main idea was to streamline our business processes and clean the processes. And the robotic process automation was, one tool in this large leaning project. And it was quite business-oriented approach when we started, and obviously we had our IT personnel involved to this kind of process when we chose this approach. But as mentioned, it was quite business-oriented, and our project was staffed by our business personnel. So it was quite easy way for us to choose this approach, as we had there was it was not necessary to staff our own personnel to organize, for example, environment, set up the environments and things like that. But I want to highlight here that even the approach was more quite business oriented. It was very important to take our IT department involved and go through the kind of security gates and get the risk management involved, as well as our IT architecture, so that all the solutions are approved by different stakeholders.
Okay, thanks, Antero. Alexander, anything you want to add to that from your side? What was your driver behind your approach?
Yeah, I can agree with Antero. I mean, our cloud journey has been excellent, but for us it was an easy one. It's an IT strategy behind that choice to go to the cloud, and the IT strategy is underlying the company strategy. So that's how we see those kinds of IT services today, more or less. But very resilient service for us and very secure. It has been excellent.
Okay, so probably in terms of my next question to yourself, Alexander, is obviously the fact that you've got it was part of your IT strategy may have made some of your the bumps in the road may not have been as big as other organisations, but in terms of the implementation of your cloud solution, is what was your biggest challenge or biggest sort of obstacle that you needed to get around, and to get that initial implementation up and running?
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, we have a cloud first outsourced IT strategy within some years back at my company. So actually we didn't face any internal pushback or so. I mean, when we did our procurement, since doing RPA is not our core business, so to speak, so we simply asked for a cloud-based robotics as a service solution. And actually, most of the suppliers that we asked for did not offer either cloud-based or as a service solution. So, but of course, Digital Workforce did. So the choice to go with you was quite easy, and we're very glad that the partnership ever since we started has been a success, more or less. Mm-hmm. I mean, and I think a key for us was that we both had IT and business aligned in our project from the beginning with clear and straight communication. very big success factor. And also in our implementation, I mean, there were no big challenges with the cloud. Actually, the staff that helped us were very skilled and experienced. Maybe the biggest challenge for us was to align with the current ITSM processes, so to speak. For example, change management and incident management, how to handle, for example, changes within applications interface and such. We still learn there, but we do well, I think. So and every automation at Coop has its own CI, so to speak, in our CMDB, and that has helped us a lot with that issue. But again, want to push for both have business and IT, and of course information security and a skilled supplier aligned from the beginning in the project. I think that's when you have that, that's a very good chance to make success.
So just on the back of it, obviously you talked there about the change management and changes for applications. That's a question, an issue I've been asked many times across every type of industry and sector.
Yeah.
How did you how did you actually engage those application owners then to work with you? Because everybody's very skeptical of the robots that work. They're thinking they're going to break their system. So how did you broach that subject and build confidence as part of that change management process?
I mean, to be very simple, we reuse our change management process we have we have one change process in IT. So we use that process. We don't invent new ones. And I mean, we have application changes every week, more or less. So I mean, we use the same processes, same methodology, the same staff. So I mean, we just have a flag that for the application management that maybe your application is automated. So please, if you do any changes, please contact the Center of Excellence for RPA. So no news or so. We just use current processes, and that's I think that's the best way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dan, did you have the similar sort of challenges? How have you sort of addressed that change management conundrum?
Yeah, similar story for us. I think what made things really easy on our end is the way we onboarded our robot accounts is within our internal control infrastructure that exists today. So it's a really easy conversation to have with the system owners when we say our robots are going to access your system in the same exact way you and I do. It makes it a real easy. We're not asking for an exception. We're not asking for a deviation from some control standard we have, which makes everyone feel very comfortable. Generally speaking, our cloud journey is very similar to the other panelists as well. I think it's when you're considering this on-prem versus cloud decision from a cost perspective, it's easy to estimate the costs of the hardware requirements and other tangible costs. But I think it's even easier to underestimate the internal resourcing requirements that go along with an on-prem model. So, it was very appealing to keep our internal resources available for other initiatives and other projects. And that was a big reason we went for the route, similar to what the other panelists described.
So, because you guys have gone, rather just the sort of the robots as a service, you've gone for elements of the whole run management. So you sort of take control, you sort of manage the change the organization and digital workforce. You've outsourced that to digital workforce to actually manage the organization, shall we say, isn't it? You've separated them into two distinct functions there.
Yeah, I think that's a fair description.
Okay, thanks for that, Alexander and guys. So the next question there is, obviously you've already sort of started your journey. You've gone through that well into that initialize and industrialize phase to going something out of the robotic operating model maturity scale. What do you see as the main challenges going forward as you look to sort of scale even further and build on what the successes you've had and expand into the wider automation space? Dan, do you want to take that one first?
Yeah, sure. I think on this topic, there's really two things we're thinking about when it comes to scaling the program. The first is the depth and the reach of the program. So we have really strong traction in many of the departments within finance, which was our original mandate. And as such, the pipeline's growing, and we want to ensure that we can handle these automation requests in a timely manner and churn through our pipeline in an efficient way. But we're also seeing other business units in the organization that have seen what we've done, express interest in starting their own automation journey and leveraging our lessons learned through RPA to really get started on an RPA program of their own. And I view our team as an advisor to those groups, and we want to support them on starting that journey and work in a collaborative manner. The challenge, though, with this is how do we manage from a capacity standpoint? Since the beginning, I felt that it's critical that our program not expand unless we can adequately support the processes we already have in production. So to address this challenge, we've reevaluated our operating model, and you touched on it, Richard. We're looking at separating the run management and process maintenance function from the ongoing development and solution design. And so we're working to outsource or at least co-source that run management piece. And that way our internal analysts and developers can strictly focus their time working with the business in an advisory capacity, helping design solutions and getting new processes in production quickly without sacrificing the attention required to maintain things we already have in production. I guess the second thing we're thinking about here are the complementary tools that we can add to our automation toolbox. That way, I think we need to consider more cognitive forms of automation that can complement our existing RPA bots to expand our use case pool and really help the business in new ways.
Okay, thank you. So, Antero, anything? Obviously, you've been an RPA user for a number of years now. What do you see as the challenge going forward in terms of expanding your digital workforce?
Well, maybe one thing to highlight here is obviously that when we started and when you start your journey, of course, it's interesting to create new robots and create intelligent automation and all that stuff is perhaps the most interesting part of this job. But I want to highlight here that when you have around 150 robots in production, it is very important that you have your run team or operations team in place, and it is maybe not the biggest job at the moment, but it requires a lot of attention that your robots are working there in production and making that work that they should do, and so that the business achieve their cost efficiency and customer experience goals that they are aiming. So that is maybe one thing that I want to highlight when you scale up your robot farm or your automation journey. Maybe one thing, this is related, perhaps this application management or operations thing is the best practices and way you develop your robots. So that is something that you should pay attention when you start your journey, so that they are very reliable.
Okay, yeah, that's key. So in terms of scaling, I'm sure you guys have all thought about this, but obviously it's important that you've got the initial foundations in place. So you've all touched on having the right operating model to support your digital workers in terms of the change, embedding your change management, understanding the scaling and things like that. You've talked about Dan and engaging the right people, and then understanding how do you keep these robots happy, shall we say, and keep them working. So again, we've touched on some of the technologies, but you've also highlighted the importance of that robotic operating model is getting that right before you even think about scaling. I think that's a key point. So thanks for sort of highlighting that, guys. In terms of, so we've not had any questions yet, but there may be some coming through now. Obviously, you guys have obviously been doing this for a number of years, but in terms of hindsight's a wonderful thing. As I say, I've been involved with implementations for nearly 9 years now, and I still learn lessons from every implementation. But if there's one thing that you would have done differently if you knew then what you knew now, what would that be? So if there's one nugget of information, one nugget key lesson to take away from this, guys, what would that one be? So again, I'll just do this back in alphabetical order. So Alexander, what would your one key lesson takeaway be for the audience out there?
Yeah, good question. I think, like we said, we had a successful journey. But one thing when we did, going to the cloud, did the technical setup with IT and also organizational setup, I think we should have been working more in parallel with actions, not in serial that we did. I mean, request network changes, accounts to old mainframe systems, going into with the security thing. Stretching the Active Directory to the cloud environment, aligning with the ITSM processes that we talked about, etc. I think we should have been worked much more in parallel if we have done it today, because lead time could be very long otherwise. But so that is more my tip. Maybe not the rocket science, but it's so many activities, and you underestimate the lead time often when you have to do with IT. Yeah.
And that's something coming from IT as well. So that's been very, very honest from you, Alexander.
Yeah, I'm on.
Thank you. And Antero, one key lesson that you take away?
Maybe same thing than what Alexander just said. That no regrets. We have had great journey, and our team has made some great job there. But I already said things about best practices and pay attention to operation and running the robots. But maybe one thing that I haven't yet, what I haven't said already, is that if we had this automation toolkit that we have now, and this understanding that we have now, maybe we would have done some automation solutions in a different way with the different technologies. So maybe that is one key lesson, that when you have only one hammer, you use it everywhere. So use more than one hammer.
Yeah. So sort of building out that toolkit and being a bit flexible. So yeah, that's great. Thanks, Antero. Dan. So
sure. Yeah, we as well have been very happy with our journey thus far. We have great collaboration with the business and IT. I've touched on my views of run management and process maintenance already, and the importance of that. And I think that's even in the early days when you have your first processes in production, essentially that first production rollout for a particular BU or department is your first impression with the stakeholders within that BU. So when the process breaks or we had a system exception for the first time, it was really important for us to demonstrate agility to get that process back up as quickly as possible, and also ensure we were in constant communication with the business so they knew what to expect and what the issue was and estimated time for completion. So I think the perception of our program and the quality of engagement we have with the BU stakeholders can be heavily influenced by these early interactions with our automation team. So it was paramount that we got them right. And I think as our program expands, we continue to have these, as I put it, first impressions with the business. And so we're staying vigilant to make sure that we continue to get it right and start off on the right foot with each of these groups.
Yes, you make a good point there. That first impressions, everybody has this perception at times that it's very easy for these robots to go rogue. So how can you demonstrate that they're not going to go rogue? So you getting those quick wins, successes is crucial to get you off on the right footing. The one thing that I'd like to add to that, guys, as well, is that I think, again, it's sort of looking to set expectations, and it's taking people on that journey with you. I'm sure you guys have done that, but it's some people have this perception that they think automation is going to be automating every automate a process, it's going to automate every transaction 100% of the time, shall we say. And obviously, we know that doesn't happen. These robots, they're not human, but they can be impacted by, they can go sick and things like that. So it's demonstrating, as you said there, Dan, how you recover from those exceptions and demonstrate to the business units that these robots are doing what they're told, but they've been impacted by something outside. But you recover that very quickly and things like that. So thank you for that, guys. We look like we've got our first question. So this is from Thomas. So how do you measure and report the value of an automation in place? Getting that return on investment and benefits tracking is always a dark art in places. But Dan, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I can start and see if the other panelists have alternative ways of measuring. We have 4 different buckets that we measure processes in. We have a bucket for hours saved. That's simply how much time in manual hours have we transitioned from a human to a digital worker. We also have a concept that we frame as hours avoided, and that can be one of 2 things. It can be we've automated a net new process that wasn't performed previously due to either capacity constraints or other reasons, or the value of time by running a process more frequently in the future in its automated state than it was performed manually. We put that in a separate bucket because we want to be able to tell the story. What have we moved from a human and what incremental value have we added, and track those separately so we can really understand where that value derived from. And then the other 2 buckets, we have a hard dollar savings, if there's any type of savings from reducing systems or moving away from consulting fees or whatever other hard dollar costs exist. And then the final bucket is more of a qualitative catch-all that can be inclusive of things like risk management, error reduction, stuff like that.
Yeah, as you said, Dan, there's probably many ways you can track it. The one interesting thing you've done there is you've not actually said, which was in the early days, everybody was about saving FTEs. I think RPA now is a lot more than that, and it's how to do the cost avoidance and things. I've seen customers measure based on the reduction in customer complaints and things like that, and the number of errors they get. So you can. I think the flexibility depends on the type of process, but the common ones now is, as you've said there, that business hours saved, hours returned to the business, and things like that. So, guys, just touching on that, do you do anything different to what Dan does, or is it along the same lines? Antero?
Okay, sorry.
No problem. Yeah, I have to say that they're quite similar metrics for in our company as well. But one thing is that there might be, different kind of reasons why we want to invest to automation solutions. And one thing that I didn't get from Dan's speech is, kind of regulatory basis. So if some kind of regulatory basis are there, this might be, reason to invest. Also, we have created some new, product launches by utilizing RPA as well. So that is maybe one case, but of course you can measure that by hour saved based.
Okay. Alexander?
Yeah, we have at the bottom, if you see like this, we have the regular metrics, of course. Then they are connected to specific KPIs. KPIs could be, of course, time back to the business, quality, that you raise the quality in the processes and such KPIs. Let's say we have 8 KPIs. Then the KPIs are connected to our critical success factors. And actually, we have 5 critical success factors. I mean, that's one of them is that we have a good RPA strategy, of course. We choose the right business processes for automation. We have an RPA partner that is very at the long term for us. That is very, very good at what they do, and so a couple of other critical success factors. So that's how we see that tree, so to speak.
Okay, so Thomas, there was probably lots of information there. I hope you can pick something out there that works for you and your organisation. If you want any more information, then feel free to pop past the Digital Workforce virtual room, and one of our experts on probably in terms of the delivery approach and the operating model will be more than happy to go into more detail on that if you so desire. So I think we're up at the end of time, guys. So I just want to sort of thank you, the panelists, for your input. Some fascinating stories there. And thank you to everybody who's joined us. I hope you found it informative. As I said, if you want to sort of visit the Digital Workforce virtual room, you've been for a chance to win that capability scan. And enjoy the rest of Blue Prism World, and hopefully we'll get to speak to you all soon. And thanks again, panelists, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.